I personally think that this is the best update this far. Hey, how's it going guys? My name's Daniel, aka HashLips, and welcome to my channel. In this channel, we are continuing to look at the HashLips art generator code. Now, if you haven't seen any of these videos before, please go and watch the previous two. It will give you great context and you will learn how to create multiple images, thousands of images with just a few layers. Now, for this update, we've done a few fixes. To get the latest repo on your machine, you can either go here to the code section and copy it over there, or if you really want to make sure to follow along with a particular video such as this, you can go to the releases over there. If you click on the releases file there where it says v1.0.2, it might say something different in the future, but we are looking at this video particularly to version 1.0.2. Now, the few fixes that were done was the Windows fix where the delimiter was actually breaking for Windows users because it was an asterisk. You cannot have an asterisk in a file name on Windows, so we changed it to a hashtag. But you can change it dynamically to whatever symbol you want, and I'll show you now in the code. Number 2 is the very secretive but the most awesomest update this far. It is adding layer configurations to do more complex collections ever seen before. This will change history, and this was inspired by an artist that contacted me that gave me this idea to implement. Then the DNA is now hashed, and we did a little fix on the random selection by weights. I cannot wait to take you guys through this amazing new update. So if you enjoyed the code, please leave a like and comment in the section below. I would really like to hear your feedback as always, and I do listen and I do implement your suggestions, so go ahead and do that. If you get stuck for any reason, go and follow our Telegram group or Twitter. There's a lot of community members by now that will definitely help you out. Let's jump right into the new update. What you want to do is you want to go down here to where it says version 1.0.2, and then you want to click on the source code zip. Once you've downloaded the zip file, extract it on your machine and then open an IDE. So now that you have downloaded, extracted the zip and opened that zip folder in your favorite IDE, I'm using Visual Studio Code. It's just very convenient to use, but you can use any IDE for this. Make sure that you are in the root of the folder structure, and you can tell that by opening a terminal, and make sure that that terminal is inside of your folder structure. So usually in Visual Studio Code, you can just go to terminal and say new terminal, and it will open it up in your root. To make sure that you are in the root, you can type ls on a Mac, and when you run it, you should see all these folders showing up in the terminal representing these ones. Just basically make sure that you've opened it correctly. Next, what you want to do is you need to install the dependencies. I prefer yarn, so after you've installed yarn, you can use that, or you can use npm from node. So you can say yarn add all in your terminal, make sure you are on the root, and it should start downloading all the dependencies needed for this repo. And there you can see that all the dependencies was installed successfully. If you are having trouble with yarn, you can alternatively run npm install. So after running npm install, it would do exactly the same. npm and yarn are just two different libraries which grabs dependencies from the internet and downloads it onto your machine. So either one would work. Alright, perfect. Now we have some extra folders, and mainly this node underscore modules folder. Make sure that you have this in your folder structure before continuing to the next step. So for the next step, what you want to do is you want to run the program to make sure that everything builds and we actually built the base project generating the new artworks. You can do that by going to the same terminal and running node space index.js. Once you hit enter, you should see the artworks generating here on your folder structure underneath a build folder. The first time you run this program, it takes some time, but afterwards it's much faster. Once this kicks in, you'll see that it goes ahead and creates 10 artworks down here like so. It even found a existing DNA, which it then skipped and continued to run, which is perfect. That's exactly how we want this program to work. A lot of people have asked me, where do these things get saved? So for those people who wonder where the artworks get saved, it simply gets saved in the exact same folder structure that you downloaded. It just will be underneath the builds folder that will be created when you run this program. You can see that if you open the builds folder there, all your images and metadata exist in there. Similarly, if you look at the IDE that you're working in, it will also show up here because these are just folders and files inside of a folder on your machine, right? So here in the builds folder, we can see that these images was now created. Great, our program works and we're also getting back the metadata for each of these images. Now that we know that this program works as intended, we can go ahead and now experiment with new types of layers that we want to add. Firstly, there was a fix that I had to do for the Windows users out there. Let's go and check how the program works and the configuration that you can play around with to make your own collection work. So having a look at what changed in the program, we can go ahead and go to the source file, open the config.js, and this is the file that we are going to explore. This is also the only file that you ever need to change when you create your own collection. I highly recommend that you go back and watch the previous 2 videos of this series in order to fully understand this program. Well, members have been complaining, saying that they can't run this program on Windows, and that's mainly to do with the delimiter that they can't use. Previously, our delimiter, and when I talk about that, I mean in these layers, on all of our layer files, if we open one, usually this was a asterisk, a star, and for Windows users, they simply can't use an asterisk in the file name. So what I've gone and done for you guys is put a rarity delimiter inside the configuration. So exactly like the previous program, you go and set up your weights. Basically all you have to do is put a hashtag now and then put your weight. You can simply go and change this delimiter over there, and if you want to make it an and sign, if you want to make it a asterisk again, or if you want to make it an @ sign, you can go ahead and do so, as long as it doesn't conflict with the rest of your naming convention. This is done so that this will now work on Windows machines and Linux and Mac. So that's the first change in the configuration file that you need to be aware of. So just change all the asterisks to hashtags for now, and if you want a custom one, you can change that. Then just remember to change it over here. Another thing I want to mention is that if you have a folder, each one needs a rarity attribute. Let's say you wanted all these files to carry the same weight and be equal in the selection process. You can go ahead and have a weight of 1 on all of them. It means it will equally go and choose one of these. If you want one to be more ordinary and chosen the most, you can go and update a weight, let's say yellow, to maybe 10. This means that yellow would be chosen 10 times more than the other ones. And that's how the weights work. They don't work in percentages. And that's what makes it so flexible. You can have a lot of weights and a lot of attributes. The next thing that changed that we have to take a look at that is very, very exciting is the layers configuration. Now, I am very excited regarding the layers configurations because this now allows the artist to have all the freedom they want. And this was actually brought up by an artist who contacted me and saying that they have these issues where they don't always have layers that work together perfectly. I then went ahead and create these layer configurations for you guys out there to either create a normal collection like we always used to, and also to have the option to create the same collection but with multiple layers switching in and out. I'll give you guys an explanation here, but you can play around with this code. Let's quickly run through the rest of what we need to do with the layer configuration before we do another run, and so that you understand how it works. Firstly, you can see that we have this layer configuration file. This used to be the layers orders. We still have the layers orders, but this is sitting inside of an object. This all the way down to here, from 17 to 6, is one object. You can see that it's one object by closing it down and seeing that it closes in on itself. Meaning that this one object has a grow addition size 2 object, or well, a value, as well as the layers order. This is important to understand. If you want to create a collection just basically the same way how we always have done, where you add your layers to the layer folder, name them exactly the same as your layers over there, organize them in any order you want to, and if you want to create now 100 artworks, you make the grow edition size 100. We don't have an edition size down here anymore. The reason for that is because the grow edition to size is there to control how many editions should be created and facilitate this new workflow. When you do that and you save the program, you can go ahead and go and run this in the terminal again. Make sure that you save the config.js before running it. You can see that 100 artworks gets created pretty quickly. Another change I want you to notice, and that I want to mention, is basically the DNA. The DNA are now converted to SHA-1 hashes, and the reason for that is we want a static value that changes based on the images being selected. I have done a lot of code updates in this update, so I'm not going to run through the code. Feel free to go through the code on your own. I think it's important for you to know how to use the code, and on a later stage we'll refine it where I'll take everyone through it again. But basically this is the one change. And you can see that in our builds folder, this has now generated these new artworks. But why are these configurations necessary? Well, let me explain. So first off, if you just want to create a normal collection and you have sorted out your layers and you don't want extra complexity with your layers, you can perfectly use it just like this. Like the old way, except for the edition size is now in this grow edition size 2 value. So there you will set your edition size basically for one collection with one layer configuration. But let's say in my layers I've got this extra goo PNG that I now want to add. But I only want to add it on certain editions as well as order it in a different way on my layers. Let's say if I look at my PNG, I want this goo sometimes to be inside the lids, and sometimes I want it to be on top. How do I do that? Now this is a very basic example, but I'm going to show you how to achieve this. What you need to remember is we need to add our goo folder into our layers order. But instead of just adding it, so I can go ahead and do this and say, well, I need to add my folder goo. I need to make sure that my goo has an image, at least one image, and I've set the weight to 1, so it always selects it anyway. Then I'm going to change the edition to only 5. When I run the program after saving the config.js, my 5 images gets created. And I can see each one has this goo image on top of it because it's the last layer in this order. But let's say I didn't want that, but only for some of the images I wanted the GUI to be actually ordered below the bottom lid, like so. So if I save the program again and run it, I can see that my new images gets created, and now the GUI is below the lids. But this is a problem because sometimes I want it on top again. How do we do that? Now, what you can do, and this is very important, go ahead and make sure that you copy this whole object from line 6 to line 18, wherever it stops with the curly brace. You can make sure that you're copying the whole object by closing it first over there on this arrow, or you can just make sure to copy this whole thing. You copy it and paste it right below. This is now a continuation of your collection. The only rule with this is the Grow Edition 2 size amount can't be the same, and it must go higher, it must increment for the next edition that you're busy with. Because think of it like this. We start off with our collection and we create 5. Now we want to grow our collection to, let's say, 10, meaning that this layer structure will be used for the next 5 NFTs, and I'll show you what I mean. I'm going to keep this simple, keep everything the same, and just take this GUI and move it on top of everything again. Once I save the program and I run it, you will see that 10 images now gets created because the last one determines the whole edition size, but every increment of it determines how many images will be created. So in layman's terms, for this layer order, 5 will be created. For this layer order coming after it, another 5 will be created because it goes to 10. So let's go and check it out in the builds folder. If we go and have a look at PNG1, we can see that the GUI is below the lids. If we go down and we go to 5, which is the last one of those, and we carry on to 6. 6 is now triggering our latest layer configuration. So onwards, the GUI will now be on top. This might be a simple example, but you can see how powerful this gets. We can carry on with as many layer configurations as we want. We can even say, well, let's make our edition 15 or 20 even, so that we add another 10 images. But this time, I don't want a bottom lid to be there. I also don't want a background, and I also don't want a top lid. Maybe I don't even want GUI. I just want the eyeball, and I can rearrange orders. In doing this, if I save this file, we can see that I have now 3 layer configurations, and when I run it, I will see the output. We can see, like normal, there's our first cool NFTs up till 5. From there on, the GUI is on top, right? Up until 10. Remember, it goes from 5 first, then up till 10. And then from 10 to 20, we can see that it would probably look a lot different. So 11, there you can see, 12, 13. Now these don't even have bottom lids, but yet they form part of the same collection. They form part with the same DNA and metadata. I think this is some of the most exciting additions to this program. This allows an artist to really be free with what they want to create. You can contribute layers of different series if you want to into one. This is also a way that you can do races. You can say that you want one race to have these folders with their rarity specified. Another race can be this, and another race. You can have your imagination go wild and create as many of these as you want to. Just remember that the Grow Edition size will first make 5 of these, then Grow Edition 10 will make 5 of these because it continues growing the edition. See it as that and you'll be fine with this concept. Like I mentioned, if you just want the normal collection to run, remove the rest of these configuration files. Just keep to one edition if you really want it to be like this, and maybe you can create 20, 100 or 10,000 NFTs. That's how simple this program now is. This will all be explained in the README file like you can see on the repo, but from my side, I can't wait for you guys to test this out and let me know what you think. And as always guys, have an amazing day. Please leave a comment in the description if you like this video, and join our Telegram group if you're struggling with any coding questions that you want answered. The community is growing and they'll definitely help you out. Cheers for now.